Hello, and thank you for joining our MasterControl presentation today. We're going to be talking about 2023 trends in life sciences manufacturing. Matt Lowe, our Chief Strategy Officer at MasterControl, is here today to tell us all about what's coming down the pike in 2023.
Thank you, Jen. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you today and share some of the trends that we're seeing in the manufacturing area of life sciences and what we expect that to look like in 2023. As Jen mentioned, my name is Matt Lowe. I am the Chief Strategy Officer here at MasterControl. Have been with the company now for going on 17 years, so have had the pleasure of being able to see this industry and work within this industry, not only here at MasterControl, but in my prior life as well. So from our presentation today, there are maybe some things that we ought to summarize up front. Some of the challenges or some of the problems that we see folks facing within the life sciences and specifically within manufacturing. The first thing that we've seen, and this has really accelerated in the past couple of years, is really this unprecedented pace of digitalization within life sciences manufacturing. And because it's going so fast, it's not always done in the most orderly fashion. You can see what we call islands of automation cropping up all over the place where, yes, you have digital information, but it's not connected in any way. Oftentimes it can be presented in a format that really isn't consumable in a way that you can gain insight and improve your business. So a big challenge there, something that we're seeing. Along with this pace of digitalization comes the sheer volume of data that we see our customers accumulating and trying to make sense of. Whereas in the past you may accumulate gigabytes of data over a period of time. Now we're seeing terabytes, all the way on up to petabytes of information. That when you're dealing with that much volume, it's just really difficult to make sense of what's happening. Now, another thing that we see is the ever-evolving workforce within this life sciences industry, what their expectations are, how they expect to come to work. It seems to be changing at a much faster pace than we've ever seen before. Again, the pandemic has changed the way we look at things, has changed the way we do things, and we don't see that letting up in 2023. Now, with all of this digitalization comes new digital capabilities, insights that you should be able to get at and utilize to improve your business, reduce costs, increase efficiency, accelerate time to market. Those are all things that we think that people should be taking advantage of. Now, along with that and that ever-evolving, ever-changing workforce is a new generation of worker that is very tech-savvy. I don't know about all of you out there, but my children and their ability to navigate digital devices and pick up an application and just intuitively and immediately know what's going on. What we're seeing that show up in our workforce, even with entry level and junior staff that may have taken some time in the past to progress to that level of technical knowledge. And then finally, getting your digital transformation efforts off the ground. Sometimes it can be difficult. Sometimes you have a lot of support within your organization. But what we do know is that leading manufacturers in the life sciences industry, they're really embracing this digitalization and the digital transformation within their systems, on their manufacturing lines, and with their workforce in particular, to the point where it can even become a differentiator for them in attracting talent when they're able to provide these kinds of tools for their workforce. So that's just a summary of some of what we're seeing. Really what we're here to talk about today is how do we as life sciences manufacturers respond to some of these challenges and opportunities that are headed our way? And what trends can we take advantage of to make sure that we're meeting those challenges head on? This first one here that we're going to talk about is the prioritization of end-to-end digitization in your manufacturing environment. That's always a tough word to roll off the tongue. Digitization, digitalization, you get both of those, not super easy to spit out there. But beyond just digitalizing things on your manufacturing floor, it's this idea of a true end-to-end ecosystem. Because again, you can plunk a whole bunch of machines on your manufacturing line that individually generate data and give you access to data. But how does that play into the bigger picture? How do you know from the first step of a product being manufactured to the last step when it goes out the door, how does that data tie in to that greater manufacturing life cycle? So, what we see in our own research and our own study, this comes from a survey that we did of life sciences manufacturers last year. 64% of manufacturing executives in the life sciences say that they have strategic initiatives that are associated with smart factory, this idea of Industry 4.0. It's very high on their list of priorities, if not the highest. And so by far, the majority of folks that we talk to, and in spite of this priority that's being placed on this end-to-end digitization effort, what we see with the tools that have been out in the marketplace, specifically in manufacturing, is even though people may have some of these tools, and in this case, we're talking specifically about manufacturing execution systems, they are very poorly deployed as far as the breadth that these systems are able to reach within any given manufacturer's scope of products that they're producing. Up top there, you can see only 9% of these folks, and again, we're only talking about 57%. 9% of the 57% have fully implemented their MES system across all of their facilities. Now, more typically, what we see is that folks will get these up and going in one site. In this case, you can see 62% of that data set that has an MES. But they kind of get to the end of that first site and stop. And there are any number of reasons that can happen. What we see with the legacy MES providers and these systems is that they're so complex and difficult to implement and get rolled out that many of these companies that have attempted to push them within their organizations, they're tired when they've finished that first site. They just, we call it implementation fatigue. They don't have the energy to keep pushing through to additional sites. Now, a smaller percentage of these folks get it partially implemented. So it may be in a specific part of their manufacturing process A lot of times we see it at the front end in weigh and dispense, but it never makes it beyond that. And then a very small percentage of this data set they've just purchased. And so they're right at the front end. They still have a lot of energy. Likely they're going to end up in the 62% that gets it out at one site. So how do you take it beyond these lackluster statistics of how much value you're able to get out of these systems? And one thing that we see is really the origination of what we would call modern manufacturing execution systems. And these take a very different approach than the traditional systems that we've seen for over 20 years in the marketplace and are the subject of that study that we did. Smarter, faster, much easier to roll out, more flexible. These are all things that you should be looking for as you attempt to digitalize your manufacturing operation. And we're going to talk specifically about some of these points here. One thing that we would recommend is what we call think big, but start small. So you want to have that full vision in place, but start somewhere that you can get some early wins, quick hits. It really builds confidence inside of the organization and creates energy for additional rollout as opposed to sapping that energy and getting into implementation fatigue. And a couple of the things that are important here as you go into this think big, start small kind of a mindset. You want to make sure you're looking for a system that is very quick to install. In a lot of cases, these are cloud systems, so there actually isn't an installation process. You want to make sure that it supports your existing processes. You don't necessarily want to have to re-engineer your entire process to map it to a software tool. Rather, it should be the other way around. The software should support what it is you're doing. And then making sure that it's something that is easy to scale up, but then also easy to scale out. And that's really the kind of underlying principle of think big, start small. You start on one manufacturing line. Maybe you start on the packaging end of it or the front end or wherever it may be. And then you continue to scale that up within that manufacturing line and then scale out across other lines and other products. Make sure that you're prioritizing speed and flexibility. Again, we think this has really been the downfall of traditional legacy systems, is that because of their lack of flexibility, it really slows down the implementation process. And again, that's where we get stuck in that pattern of you get it rolled out in one site, maybe on one high volume line, and then you stop because you're worn out and you're tired and you're ready to go on to whatever the next problem is. So in this speed and flexibility area, looking for a tool that is configurable, it's purpose built for life sciences manufacturing, that'll go a long way in making sure that you're achieving the flexibility that is needed there. We talked about fast to install. It also has to be fast to implement and configure. Being able to do that with minimal services from your MES vendor is usually a good indicator of how fast and flexible the system actually is. And then ultimately, you want to make sure that that's easy to adjust for changes that may occur down the road. You don't want to have to be calling your software vendor every time you need to make a change in the process. That's really going to slow things down. It's costly. It takes a lot of time. So again, good indicators that the system you've selected is both fast and flexible. And then lastly, making sure that it connects end to end. This again gets back to the situation where, maybe you've got this machine and that machine, and they're producing their own data. You've got a legacy MES system that's up on the front end of the process, and it's producing its own data. How do you make sure all of that is coming together in a way that you can actually improve what it is you're doing on the manufacturing line? Digitally connect all of the manufacturing steps, not just some of them. You want to make sure you're going soup to nuts here. And then also making sure that it will connect with your other systems. Things like your ERP system from an inventory and materials management perspective. Making sure that it connects to your quality system for when deviations occur, or an LMS when an operator needs to have training checked, things of that nature. And then your SCADA systems, your IoT gateways. How are you getting the data out of those machines that allow you to improve your manufacturing process and really begin to reduce costs, increase efficiency, and move products down the line more quickly? So that kind of sums up that first one, this idea of digitalization from an end-to-end perspective. Now that we've done that, we've got it across the entire manufacturing process. What do we do with all that data that is coming out of our process? Really being able to unlock the power of that data, being able to analyze it, use it to actually improve your process, increase yield, reduce scrap, all of the things that we all want to see in our manufacturing areas within our companies. So another study here, this one's a little further back from an industry source. They say that 62% of manufacturing organizations are still using pen and paper on the manufacturing floor. And then another 50% report that they're using spreadsheets or the old kiosks where you got a computer on wheels that is disconnected from the other parts of their manufacturing process. Number one, pen and paper, really hard to get that data in a format where you can actually analyze it, query it, do all the things that you'd like to do. And then secondarily, if it's stuck in a spreadsheet, it's marginally better. It's already digitalized, but it's not in a format that is easy to query and easy to incorporate with other data sets. Our friends at Parsable did a study back in 2021 around the state of the connected worker. And this is a term that has cropped up more prominently in the last few years. This idea of being able to augment our staff on the manufacturing line with tools and technologies that make them more effective, allow them to produce higher quality, and to do so at a lower cost and more efficiently. As more and more data becomes available, folks that continue to rely on analog-based situations like the Excel spreadsheet or the pen and paper, kind of the ultimate analog device, it's going to be really hard for them to keep up with their peers. There's a huge opportunity for improvement there. In a lot of cases, those analog communication methods can actually discourage your staff, impact morale, and potentially create flight risks where you don't want to see those within your manufacturing personnel. Really, what you want them doing is capturing the data easily, getting the data in a situation that is easy for analysis, easy to identify insights that would improve the process and make the environment better. So let's pivot back to how a modern MES can really help in this effort of getting the data in a state where you can actually do something with it, and also help you analyze that data and give you insights into your business and your manufacturing processes. We talked about this in terms of collection, connecting the data, making sure that it's holistic and across the process, and then being able to contextualize that. What does it mean? How do I become smarter and more intelligent because of that data? The modern MES system, really good at error proofing. So making sure that the data is clean from the get-go. Taking a platform-centric approach, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that means, and then simplifying the data. How do I actually make it consumable to my manufacturing team and the analysts that work with them? So if we talk first about error proofing the data entry, this is kind of table stakes with any MES system, whether that's more of a legacy, traditional type, or these modern MES systems that we're talking about here today. You get automated data integrity checks. You eliminate the whole illegibility aspect that you get with pen and paper. You get integrated prompts, validation checks, all of those things, they kind of come with the system. It's really the first step in making sure that you've got data integrity is ensuring that what's coming into the system is clean, makes sense, and is in a format that can then be processed and consumed. This idea of platform-centric or embracing a platform approach, this is really what breaks down the information silos. Again, I've mentioned islands of automation a few times throughout this presentation today. How do we make sure that we're tying all of that together? And hopefully doing so in a data format that is consistent across the entire manufacturing process. This, again, allows for much easier post-processing, but also greatly improves the visibility as products progress through your manufacturing process. This is kind of more the real-time aspect of these things. And then we've already talked about the capability to integrate with other core applications and equipment to make sure that you're getting the end-to-end picture across your process. So how can these systems simplify the data analysis, or what we would call post-processing? Already mentioned the real-time aspect there. Again, making sure that you're able to see across all the different steps and pieces of your process. Presenting data in a very user-friendly way, that it's easy for anyone within the organization to be able to consume the data, understand the data, and most importantly, leverage that data to actually make improvements in their day-to-day work efforts. And then ultimately, making sure that you have a really robust capability to share that data out to areas that may be outside of manufacturing. Perhaps this is going into an analysis group at the corporate level that is able to combine that data set with data sets from several other areas that provide even a bigger picture of the organization's health and its capability to deliver high quality products at the lowest cost. Whew, need to take a breath here. Been talking fast and long. So let's talk about this last trend here. And this gets back to the actual staff that are on our manufacturing lines. How do we make sure we're attracting and retaining the very best people in the industry? I mentioned before that oftentimes these are very tech-savvy individuals. They are accustomed to using technology from a very young age. and have developed expectations about how that technology should behave and how easy it is for them to learn. In 2022, we found that 83% of manufacturers cited attracting talent as one of their key concerns or key challenges. You want to make sure that your manufacturing area and the jobs and positions that you have available are known out in the marketplace as a very desirable place to be. Making sure that your staff have all the tools that they need to effectively accomplish their jobs and their tasks that they're trying to do. So we've just kind of come through the Great Resignation. Hopefully, we're on the backside of that. How do we make sure that we're poised to take advantage of the talent pool that is out there and be able to bring them into our companies and make sure they're happy and they stay with us for a long time? So again, the Parsable study on the connected worker, what they found is that 45% of frontline manufacturing workers say the opportunity to work in a more modern and digital environment would be part of their decision to leave a current employer and go to a new one. So again, creating an environment for your staff that is welcoming, easy to learn and understand, and makes doing their job more enjoyable, more satisfying. That's the kind of environment that we're trying to create here. Now, 57% of manufacturing executives agreed that in order to enhance day-to-day technologies that their workers are using, that needs to happen to elevate the worker experience. So, a big thing that we've seen between 2021 and 2022, and fully expect to continue going into 2023. So it's a priority. Now, how do we make sure that we actually execute on that and deliver the kind of experience that we'd like to? Again, a modern MES can really help in this regard. Attract, engage, retain, provide a really satisfying work environment. A big part of this is human-centric technology. Again, traditional legacy systems have really been focused on highly automated lines and focused on the machine, not so much the man in the manufacturing process, man and or woman. That making sure that these systems, again, have a user experience that it really has become an expectation, especially for these younger workers. Pick up and use kind of functionality, not big lengthy training sessions that span over days and weeks. And ultimately, how does this help elevate the value and purpose within your staff environment? So again, 3 points to think about here. That human-centric piece. Again, we already talked about this, but error-proofing the data entry process. This takes a very tedious task off of the worker, something that they may have had to worry about a great deal in the past. The system is handling that for them. Now they can apply their skills and their faculties to much higher value elements of the manufacturing process. Being able to automate the review and traceability of the changes on records. So, something happens, a change needs to be made. How do we document that? How do we make sure it's easy to identify and easy to trace? Facilitating the data sharing. Again, what actionable insights can we gain from that data? How do we use it? In some cases, how do we gamify it to make the work experience more enjoyable and more productive at the same time? And this is really important as we get into advanced analytics and ultimately, things like artificial intelligence, machine learning that really begin to augment the worker and again, make them more productive, more satisfied, and able to really produce high quality products. The modern MES really should be able to enable rapid adoption, and user acceptance should be table stakes. I mentioned earlier pickup and use simplicity. We all have these smartphones riding around in our pockets. They're chock full of apps. We don't spend days trying to figure out how to use an app. We download it, we open it, we poke around a little bit, and it's like, okay, I know how to use that. This is what our young tech-savvy workforce is really looking for in the tools that we provide to them to achieve the objectives of their jobs. Being able to, again, scale up and out this rapid adoption process without requiring ongoing support from your software vendor. This should be something that you are able to maintain and continue to roll out without a bunch of external resources that are there to help you through that process. And then finally, again, emphasizing value, satisfaction, purpose within the manufacturing workforce, reducing manual, repetitive, mundane tasks, the kind of stuff that is soul-sucking, I call it. How do we eliminate that, reduce that, make it more simple so that, again, we are able to apply our intelligence and our faculties to improving the process. That's really what we're all after. This idea that AI and machine learning and robotics and all of these technological advances, really what we should be aimed at doing is making our human staff more effective, happier, so that they can apply that intelligence that is required in higher level tasks that the computer cannot accomplish. So a key thing here as we apply these new systems and technologies. So conclusions, what can we take away from this? A couple of key takeaways. Again, we see that manufacturing executives, especially leaders within the industry, they are prioritizing the end-to-end digital solutions so that they get greater visibility across their business and are able to incorporate the insights into bettering their processes and making their manufacturing more efficient. The modern manufacturing solutions really allow you to tap into vast amounts of data that have not been available to you previously. Again, it's great to have data. It's more important to have data you can actually consume, understand, analyze, and use to better your business. And then lastly, this was our last trend that we touched on here. How do we utilize this technology to improve the lives of our staff? How do we give them greater satisfaction? How do we attract them? How do we retain them? This is going to become more and more important as more of our peers and frankly competitors start to deploy these types of tools and systems. All right, well, that's all I have for our presentation today. So thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure again, and we'll turn it back over to Jen.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Well, I definitely want to thank Matt for his expertise today. I hope that everybody out there was able to garner some valuable information from the presentation that you can take back to your organization to improve your processes, improve your manufacturing environment, and ultimately, just get better at everything. If you would like additional information about MasterControl or our products, you can always visit the website at www.mastercontrol.com. There are lots of other resources to download, and you can also request a demo where our team members can take you deeper into the product and show you exactly how it works and how it could benefit you. So with that, thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you next time.